Welcome to another Hi event right here on Hi TV, your luxury channel. I'm here at the IIT School of Computing for ICIIT Conclave 2024. My name is Dima. Stay tuned with Hi events to find out more.
Informatics Institute of Technology initiated ICIIT conference in 2016. Although this was paused for several years, we were able to resume this initiative over the last 2 years, and now we are back with a new novel approach.
This year, we have rebranded this event as a conclave to bring together like-minded people from across state and private universities, as well as industries, focusing on large language models and generative AI. This event marks a significant evolution from our traditional annual conference, reflecting our commitment to greater collaboration and innovation.
I have with me Dr. Dinesh Arnatilaka, who is the IIT Research Head, here with me for a little conversation. Now, Doctor, let's talk about how research itself functions in IIT and what kind of help does IIT give its researchers?
Yes, now all this time we have had research from the final year projects. So actually why we need a research function now is because the numbers have grown up, and now we want to focus whether we can take our research to the industry. So that is what we are focusing right now, and now this focused research like the conclave is trying to work with the industry rather than doing something internal for the final years. We want to take it to the industry, and also we are supporting all the researchers on their ethics clearance as well.
If you could elaborate on the functionality of research within IIT.
Yes. So we, as a division, what we do is we actually try to give them ethics trainings, because nowadays, because of various personal laws and all that, there are many restrictions on ethics when you do research and all that. So we give them trainings on that. There is a documentation that we need to do for ethics clearance. We process that, and any other research, if they want to do a startup, we give that support to them. And also, if they are actually publishing in conferences, we give them some support for that as well.
So with all that happening, what sort of impact do you think the research that is conducted at IIT will have on the industry?
Will actually are in the very initial stages of it, but we hope to be a consultancy kind of a level to the industry, and we want to do research as a service for them. So that is what we are hoping to do actually.
Let me welcome you to the ICIIT Conclave and wish that we all have a very positive experience and something that will not stop after today.
I have Dr. Rohan Veerasinghe, who is the head of the conclave, here with me to have a little chat. Now, Dr. Rohan, let's talk about the significance of ICIIT and the impact it will make on the industry and research in general.
Thank you. Yes, so the main idea of converting this from a typical IT conference into a conclave is that a conclave is a place that brings together kind of like-minded people with a single purpose. And so this is not a general IT conference, so you don't get huge crowds, but it's a group of people who are highly focused on a particular area of technology. And this year, because of the topicality of it, we have large language models and generative AI. And so everybody who's come for this, who has been invited, and also who have present or are going to present their work, are people who are working in that area, primarily from academia, both state and private, as well as from industry.
Let's concentrate a little bit about the theme itself. Now, let's talk a little bit about that, and can you give us an insight on the kind of papers that were submitted for the research on the conclave?
Yeah, okay. So these large language models, which most people have now have got used to through ChatGPT, are kind of general purpose AI systems, and so they can be applied to a variety of areas. So, for instance, there is someone who is going to talk about how they're using it in education. There's someone else who's talking about how they created a legal language model, which means to talk about, to help people to figure out, let's say, what their options are in a particular case. And then there are various others. So just now there was one about how to automatically generate commentaries of, in that case it was, I think, a basketball game. So lots of applications connected with human language. Unfortunately, currently mostly it is for English. But this also brought together a group of people who are interested in building something like this for Sinhala. That's a bit of a long journey, but the good thing was that was started here, and they also agreed to meet in not in a year's time, but in a 4 months' time for the second meetup to actually see how we can progress building a local language model.
So we made a conscious decision, of course, with a lot of risk. What will everybody think when we change the conference, a big conference, into a conclave? So this word is very carefully selected. It's not random. We struggle with the word. We wanted to call a meetup. It's actually the point. It's actually the concept. We wanted all the like-minded people to meet up, have a conversation, and make progress, and to make an impact. That's the whole objective of this. Since meetup would have sounded a bit casual, we came up with a slightly posh word, say conclave. But the whole idea is still the meetup. But then the numbers. If you see, we didn't advertise this event, at least not mass. There's a reason for that. If you are here, that is because we wanted you to be here. We didn't want anybody else randomly sitting here today. Why? Because we don't want the people discussions to be distracted if they're not interested on the topic. So you are here because you have a keen interest on the topic, and we all hope throughout the day you will all have a meaningful conversation and contribute to that. That's why you are here. That's why this number. So each seat is carefully selected.
I have with me Mr. Mohan Fernando, who is the CEO for IIT. Now, Mohan, before we move on, let's start with IIT itself, your research initiatives and the core values for IIT.
Yeah, it's a big part of what we are doing. I mean, we have a dedicated research unit over and above. The student research unit try to connect with industry and to conduct applied research. That's a USP in terms of this industry, because a lot of academic research been done, although little impact's been made in the society or the country at large. So that's what we want to achieve through setting up a dedicated research unit for applied research, and this conclave is part of that.
And when it comes to a conclave, let's talk about the difference and the impact a conclave makes with regards to a typical research conference that one would usually have.
Yeah, I mean, as I touched on during my speech, it was a big decision for us, for our institute, to move away from a traditional conference and to introduce something like this. But we took the risk because we are so focused on our objective of creating impact beyond the publication, so beyond the conference day. So as I said, this is only a day for us to meet up and discuss what we're going to do for the rest of the year, rather than having one day of conference and move to the next year's conference. So this is that start that's going to continue. Our research group are connected, so we agreed what's the next meetup, what we're going to do, what we want to achieve by that. So this is a continuous activity that will happen throughout the year rather than once a year.
My talk today is really centered around the primary topic, which is generative AI. And I want to use this opportunity as the keynote to start the day off, to initially lay the canvas and the blueprint for what generative AI is. And within that context, where large language models fit in, talk about the different flavors, the different elements of generative AI, but also give you an overview and insight into how we in industry are seeing this technology as well. How are we seeing the impact? How are we seeing the value going forward? And how generative AI especially is different to normal software development and also development of standard AI models, which has been going on for the last 20 years. How does this change the game? So really, if you look at it from the industry viewpoint, this is probably the most important graph, the most important bit of information for us. Generative AI has brought to the table the ability to simulate certain human skills which were not available with previous technology. Things like language comprehension, language understanding, doing math, reading comprehension, and over the last 20, 25 years, what we've seen is that the skill level of this AI has grown incrementally, especially at the start. Things like handwriting recognition and stuff were, hot stuff 20 years ago. In fact, my undergraduate thesis back in 2001 was actually on using handwriting, fuzzy logic for handwriting recognition. But now if you look at the level that, that type of recognition has got to, it's at a different level. But especially over the last 3-4 years, with the advent of generative AI, what we've seen is a whole bunch of new skills, especially the ability to be able to create new content, as has been mentioned earlier. Create new text, create new images, create new audio. That itself is a game changer.
I would argue that transformers is probably the best idea in AI. I think some people might disagree, but as Ramesh was talking about the transformers, that ideas came in this paper called Attention is All You Need. And the title of that paper is so, laid back. You wouldn't even think it's making a big statement. But that is the paper that actually presented transformers. And I don't know if at that time those authors knew the amount of impact they were going to make in this field. So 2017 is when this Google paper came out, and that's where they spell out how to use self-attention and the basic architecture system. And what is clearly amazing about transformers is the fact that you can use that same architecture on text, video, speech, time series data, or anything. And often they talk about this architecture as being a general purpose differentiable compute, and I like that phrase to describe it. It comes from an undergraduate. And what they say is that it is expressive in the manner it can take the forward pass with the positional encoding and so on. It is optimizable because everything can be back propagated, and it has this inbuilt technique where, for example, when you put data, whether it's tokens or whether it's parts of pictures, if you have a big image and you break it into small areas, you can put all of that in parallel, and that gets processed at once. So that makes it quite efficient piece of block of architecture as well.
I have Dr. Nirmali Veeratunga here with me from RGU. Now, Dr. Nirmali, let's talk about your collaboration with IIT for research purposes.
So, as you know, we already have a collaboration since 2016. It started on trying to get a validated course, postgraduate, and then eventually undergraduate. And then throughout that interaction with IIT, because my team in RGU, we do a lot of work in reasoning, AI and reasoning. And when we have funded projects, whether that's through the Scottish Funding Council or European funding, sometimes we get the opportunity to either do placements of IIT students at RGU in my research lab, or we get opportunities to use some of that funding and come to IIT to do research. So through such funded methods, we were able to start working on two types of research projects. A couple of years ago, we were on an EU project on self-management of low back pain. And that was using a technique called case-based reasoning, which was easily transferable to other types of diseases and aspects related to healthcare where you want to manage it, right? So one of the things we managed to do was get some funding to explore the mental health aspects of young adults in Sri Lanka, but because we had access to them through IIT, that's where we started. We got hold of a whole bunch of psychologists and so on from Open University, got their views. The team at IIT collaborated with the RGU researchers, and they created a small app called Unimate, which would help to, for students here to use and see if it helps them. It was basic things like maintaining a good health and activity, physical activity, maintaining a diary, just giving us indicating, being reflective about their moods and stuff like that. So that was the first project. And then the second one, which was related to legal AI, which is quite an interesting topic, particularly given the recent trend in large language models. We got some funding from the Scottish Funding Council to again explore with a university, maybe from a developing country. So our natural links with IIT helps there. And currently we are in the process of trying to explore how LLMs can be can harness existing Supreme Court documents in order to make information about law more democratically accessible to anybody in the sense. So currently we are running a couple of what we call co-creation activities with Sri Lankan lawyers to try and understand what kind of questions might they wish to pose to such a system to help their daily tasks. So that's where we are with that at the moment.
Speaking about the LLMs in Sri Lanka, what do you think, where do you think LLMs stand in Sri Lanka at the moment, and what sort of potential future do you see it going towards?
So I think one of the challenges, let's say, we have with LLMs is the cost of fine-tuning them. I mean, we certainly can't do that, create an LLM from scratch, because that's totally too expensive. But we can explore fine-tuning, because you want to fine-tune it or personalize it to, let's say, if it's a legal aspects in Sri Lanka, we need to fine-tune it to that. That is extremely costly. So, for example, I think we explored about maybe, I don't know, 50,000, I could be wrong here, maybe 50,000 cases. And to fine-tune that, we've sort of used about 1,000, 2,000 pounds, But that's because we got some funding to do that. But I suppose for researchers here, that will be quite a lot of money. So I think the approach here may be to explore how to work with small models. And in fact, one of the research interns from IIT, he as part of his thesis, he was looking at how to create such smaller models instead of using the entire large model, because it turns out that some of these large models which use billions and billions of parameters, some of those parameters are actually redundant. So what they are trying to do is, can we identify that redundancy and therefore compress it into a really small LLM? So that could be an interesting direction for researchers here to explore. And of course, once it becomes economically viable to do these types of fine-tuning, then maybe explore that angle.
There was actually different authors for the different periods, and so the training data had one profile from author A on here. The test data had a profile from the second author, and so the task they'd actually given was really, really hard because the data didn't reflect the two. And it was amazing how easy or how obvious it made that from this simple evaluation. So it was actually really effective. Again, publication there if anybody wants to pick up on it, the code's there as well. So I'll just finish really quickly on the approach we did come with, which is a pipeline approach. So again, case-based reasoning approach, but more going to auto-generative. I'll just go with the diagrams, I think. So first part was we split the task into two parts: creating a plan, producing the text. Creating the plan, so I've got a plan being created here. We take each sentence, we identify the sentence. Is this type basic? Is it type complex? Is it a combination of the two? And what entities does it talk about? So does it talk about teams? Does it talk about players? does it talk about teams and players? So we had these different parts, and we created a plan that each sentence that we were going to produce in our plan had this type of content.
I have Dr. Kyle Martin from RGU here with me today. Now, Kyle, let's talk about your collaboration with IIT in terms of research.
Certainly. It's a really, really exciting opportunity at the forefront of large language model research. We're looking to ensure that large language models maintain their accuracy when they're in domain-specific applications. A really key part of this is looking at the legal application and ensuring equal access to legal information for different people. However, underpinning that, it's very important that large language models are accurate and making sure we're giving people the right information. As we all know, large language models have some possibilities of hallucination, and this is inexcusable in legal information and sharing. So what we've tried to do, working with IIT, is build a retrieval augmented generation architecture that ensures large language model outputs are accurate.
How do you see LLMs being incorporated in Sri Lanka in the future?
I think there are a large number of opportunities to bring large language models or LLMs into Sri Lanka across a number of sectors. Many of the things me and my colleagues have talked about as we've been here is the really exciting opportunities, particularly in legal and medical research, paving the way for task automation and enabling people like doctors to spend less time on note-taking and on transcribing clinical dialogues, and empowering them to spend more time actually diagnosing people and performing medical tasks.
Fantastic gathering of innovative and brilliant ideas here at the IIT School of Computing. My name is Dima. Until we see you again with another Hi event, take care and be safe.